Welcome to the Homegrown podcast, a place where I share the truth about food and farming from our kitchen to yours. I'm your host, Liz Hazelmeyer, along with my husband, Joey.
Good morning.
And together we hope to educate, inspire, and equip you in your pursuit of true nourishment. Today's guest is Jessica of Well-Rooted Pediatrics. At Well-Rooted Pediatrics, they aim to get to the root cause of illness while also supporting your child's well-being. If you scroll their Instagram page, you will find out very quickly how unique this pediatric practice is, and we can't wait to dive in. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Super excited.
We're so excited, and we want to start off with a broad definition here because holistic pediatrics, we want to know more. So can you kind of define that for us?
Yeah, I think that, everybody's got a different part of their journey where it leads them to this place. And for me, it was the start of having children. So my oldest is 10. And at the time, you go to your pediatrician's office and I think you expect everybody to have like your best interest at heart. So you go there and you think like, okay, I'm going to trust these people like they're medical professionals. And before I knew it, it was like, you have to do this. You have to do this. There's a medication for this. There's a medication for that. And it was like, but why is it happening? Right? Like, is there another way? Is there another alternative? Something that doesn't come with a lot of side effects. So through that evolvement, just kind of led me to be like, well, there's got to be a root cause behind this. So switching pediatricians and kind of going through a bunch of education made me realize that there are root causes that need to be dissected and that there's other alternatives for children. And I think where a lot of parents don't know is just like, I was raised conventionally, right? So like it was just everything was a medication, an antibiotic. So to me, it was like a whole change in the mindset. And I thought, well, if parents don't know about this stuff, how are they going to get there? So for example, like we really focus on like, why is eczema happening? Like deep within the gut, food sensitivities, dysbiosis, imbalance of bacteria, parasites, right? Constipation, like we're not just giving MiraLAX because that's going to be a Band-Aid for a long-term problem that's just going to continue to get worse, right? So our office just digs deeper. We figure out exactly what's going on through testing, labs, urine, stool, and then we're able to identify the problem and then focus on that.
Yeah, that's so big. I know with our girls, when we would take them in for XYZ ailment, it wasn't really a conversation and there wasn't a lot of education. And I think that's what I was really looking for. I remember even we had a case of impetigo and I took our oldest in and I said, hey, I've been putting colloidal silver and, some blend of, what was it? Some kind of essential oil and coconut oil. Anyways, I'd been trying to tame the impetigo, which is like a skin infection, and for like 3 days. And I'm telling him, I'm like, is there anything else I can try? And he said, well, all the natural stuff you are trying isn't working. So you're going to need antibiotics. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was it. And then I was like, I really don't want to, go for like oral systemic antibiotics right now. He's like, well, antibiotics save lives. And I was like, okay. It was no conversation and no education. And I felt honestly pretty belittled. I walked out of there and Joey was like, wow, that was rough.
Elizabeth makes lots of friends.
Yeah.
I don't. So you saying that and just even speaking to the parent about like, hey, let's actually figure out why this happened and maybe what are the routes we can go to achieve optimal wellness is so heartwarming, as crazy as that sounds, because as a mom, you're so concerned with your child's well-being. And when you don't feel like you know all the tools in the toolbox, you have to rely on experts and we should be able to have this conversation. So,
well, the fact that it's such a rarity is such a concern anyways. The fact that we, it's like you have to dig for people like this it's always made me wonder.
It does make me wonder. Do you have any thoughts on why that is? Like, why is the general posture of traditional pediatrics just to lean into the medication and, cover the symptom?
I mean, a lot of it's not taught. So a lot of it's just on your own through research, continuing education, functional medicine courses. And so you're not taught any of that stuff in school. Like you're taught, schedules, you're taught medications for these ailments. Like that's just kind of it. So unless you're willing or wanting to broaden your horizons through that, it just becomes challenging. And I've met people through my functional medicine programs and different conferences that were traditional GI doctors or ENTs or neurologists that have now switched gears and gotten more into functional medicine. So it has to be a want. And some people are they're just comfortable in that lane and they truly believe. And like, there's a time and a place for medication. I will never say there's not. And it is life saving and life changing for some people, but it shouldn't be the first line for every single thing that we do.
Yeah, I love that. I know that was kind of a question that Joey had is when we're looking at our kids in different situations, where do we find that line of, hey, we do need to lean into a medication or more of a intense protocol here? Like, where do we hunt for that line and how do we find it?
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on what you're dealing with. There's certain things in our office that we absolutely say, like, we recommend an antibiotic, but we always follow up with the here is why. And our goal with our patients is to develop that rapport, right? So they trust us no matter what. But like through that, we like strep and pneumonias, so sometimes UTIs, staph infections, there's certain things that can get really bad quickly in kids that can cause just some significant like downward spirals. So we work through that. But if we have to do an antibiotic or a medication, we're following through with how do we fix that now? So we do gut work and we're rebuilding the microbiome, and we're not just doing like, here's a probiotic, right? Like that's standard, but it's deeper than that. And we know that a round of these antibiotics will disrupt the microbiome for up to 2 years. So sometimes we get these kids, age 3, 4, who have had recurrent ear infections their whole lives and have been on 6, 7, 8 antibiotics. And now we've got this whole escalate of issues. So we really try to focus on healing through the process, but also empowering the parents to know that like there is choices, but here's why we recommend this choice.
For the people listening that may be now having a bunch of questions, because I'm sure there's some people that are 100% tracking and some people that aren't. And so I'm going to unpack it a little bit and just play the novice card here. When we are looking at antibiotics, we are assuming, or we're talking about how there may be some pros and some cons to them. There's some things that are benefits, and then there's some detriments to an antibiotic. Can we unpack that a little bit so that we really have everybody along for the ride here, and then talk about some of the like post antibiotic treatments that you're discussing?
Yeah. So I always joke that, they don't staple the little piece of paper to your prescription for fun. And I don't know anybody that actually reads it. So like that is your laundry list of side effects. So depending on the antibiotic, I mean, you're dealing with side effects of autoimmunity to bloody stools, to vomiting, to anaphylaxis, to skin issues, right? So like those are broad. But then on the inside, we know that an antibiotic is meant to kill, right? So there's different types of antibiotics. There's more broad spectrum that will kill lots of different bacteria. There's ones that kill just certain types of bacteria. So with that, the body is very intelligent, but the antibiotic isn't. So it's going to go in and it's just going to kill. So it's just going to wipe everything out, good and bad. And let's just say that maybe we're teeter-tottering, not having a lot of the good to begin with. So now we're in the negatives, right? So is what happens is the gut just can't handle that. Bacteria is not there. The mucosal lining dissipates. And now we have what we would consider these holes or leaky gut. And when you develop that, everything that you're eating or drinking or even taking in medication wise is going through the bloodstream because it's going through the holes in the gut. Once it's in the bloodstream, the body almost just puts up like a guard, right? And it's just like it flags it and tags it. It's like, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. So now what it's going to do is develop an autoimmune response, an eczema response, an allergy response. And people always say, like when we do allergy testing, sometimes all the foods that they pop up for are everything that they eat. And I said, well, why do you think that is? Well, it's because everything that you're eating is going right through to the bloodstream and the body's attacking it, right? So, that's just one example. And leaky gut is huge. And I think, again, a lot of it's like, been overplayed a little bit where like everybody's got leaky gut, leaky gut, leaky gut. Like you kind of hear it everywhere, but there's so much science and data that really prove that it's a big problem. And with that, right, you're going to have like sometimes an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine, or you have that dysbiosis. So there's just so much bad bacteria that now it's just replicating and it's causing lots of problems, whether that be bloating, constipation, diarrhea, eczema, allergies, autoimmunity. So all connected.
The entering the bloodstream idea, that is so fascinating. That's actually the first time I think I've heard it articulated that way. So for me to better understand it, we have a leaky gut that's been developed through antibiotics, which I mean, I like being very transparent, saying, hey, these things are designed to kill stuff, right? And on the journey of killing things, they are not only killing the things you want them to kill, but they're also killing stuff that's kind of just naturally inside your gut that you want to kind of keep there. And so you're doing some, it's almost like what would you call that? Like there's damage being done as a result. When you drop a bomb on something, right? You kill what you want to, but you're also probably collateral damage. Sorry, thank you.
I was like, I don't know where you're going with that.
We got there. So the collateral damage could be your gut biome, right? And with that, you're developing this leaky gut syndrome, which is allowing food that's being digested to go directly into the bloodstream. And as a result of that, your body's like, hey, that shouldn't be here. Therefore, we're now identifying that as a problem. And therefore, we now have a food allergy. So it's like immediately my brain goes to, because this is just how my brain works, how many allergies we deal with today and how common it is. And people are like, well, this is my allergy. I'm allergic to, 300 ingredients. And I have to, I'm ultra sensitive to this because I went to culinary school. And so when I was going through culinary school, we didn't even talk about gluten-free. It wasn't even,
Right.
I mean, this is years ago, but we didn't even talk about it. It wasn't even something that was discussed. We baked bread. We had the pastry lab, and it wasn't even a class. It wasn't even something we learned.
Nowadays, it probably is.
I can't imagine going through culinary school today and not discussing all of the, not only just gluten-free. We talked about vegetarian and veganism in culinary school when I was there. So, and that was the rise of the portobello mushroom. So when we were cooking foods, if you wanted to make it vegan or vegetarian, it was like, sub out this steak for a portobello mushroom and everyone's going to be happy. So anyhow,
how much protein is in a portobello mushroom?
I don't know if there's any, I don't really know, but I
was going to say very little.
Yeah.
That's not a like for like comparison. Just because it looks like a burger doesn't mean you know how often if
you marinate it right, who knows. So
oh my God.
The question I have there is that how many allergies, and maybe you don't have a direct answer to this, but how many allergies that people are dealing with today could be are likely a result of having a disrupted gut biome?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. I don't have a number for you, but the problem is how long it sits there, right? How long is the body attacking itself? So when we work through healing, which is, I know that you kind of had touched on that, like that's kind of multifactorial and it depends on their testing of what we're going to do. But through that process, as we work through that, like we're watching those lab trends and we're ensuring that those labs are improving. And so those food allergies do improve. But it's a matter of like, are they going to be able to go back 100%? Or does the body have what we call cell memory where it doesn't want to, right? So the further out, the better chances you are. So, just because something goes negative in 3 months, like I wouldn't recommend just going back to it. I would say we have to definitely continue to make that healing be in the front, and then we can kind of try to introduce later. But it just kind of depends. And the gut is so important. And then we know that it's connected to the brain and it's connected to our immune system. It's connected to how everything works. So when you have those food allergies, you tend to have those kiddos that are recurrent illnesses, super sick, congested, recurrent coughs, because their body just can't clear any of that inflammation.
When you're doing testing, are you doing blood or stool testing or a combo of both? What does that look like?
It's a combo of both, just based on our medical history and what we're talking about in the office. Sometimes we even do urine testing, again, just kind of depending. But we do all three.
Wow. I will tell you, I've never once had it offered to me to run any sort of lab, like literally nothing. So even just getting the intel and the comprehension in that, it's frustrating, right? That it's like so rare.
It's preventative. It should be prevention versus reaction.
Yeah.
Right? So like, why are we not looking to make sure our vitamin and mineral levels are okay? Like, why are we not optimizing health to make sure that that's okay? I mean, we do a lot of labs based on parent request. And then sometimes just based off of our want as well. Yeah. But it's all about just not having that reactive, healthcare system.
Yeah. And it's really hard when you're a parent and you know something is off and you don't know the roadmap to get there. And
Yeah.
it can be hard if you don't have a diagnostic tool that you feel comfortable with, or you don't have a practitioner who's willing to go there with you. I really sympathize, and we've been there. So I totally appreciate everything you guys do in your office.
Thank you.
A question I have had many times myself is, there's this common phrase of like, when kids are building their immune system, it's normal to get, 7 to 10 colds a year. And then I look at my kids who maybe they're super sheltered. I don't know. I'm willing to admit. But they don't get sick. Like I got sick for the first time in 3 years, like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, what is this? Like, this is weird. My kids didn't get sick, but we don't experience an expression of symptoms that lasts. Like, we don't have chronic runny nose or chronic cough. And they used to, my kids used to, before we changed our health and our lifestyle. So is there something to be said about chronic symptoms showing up, or is that a natural building of the immune system? Like, how are we supposed to read that as parents?
Yeah. And I think it's a big misconception in the world. And again, the healthcare system has led us to believe that it's normal. Oh, your kid's just in daycare. Oh,
Yeah.
your kid just started school. That's not okay. Like, it's not normal. Anything that's consistent is not normal. It may be common because that's the society that we live in, but common and normal are two different things. So I'm like, we're like you guys. I mean, we just had a bout of illness. And I'm like, what is happening? Because we don't ever get sick either. And all four of us went down. But that just goes to show, it's like, okay, well, maybe we've been pushing ourselves a little bit much. Maybe we fell off a little bit with sports and we're kind of just not on our diet as well as we need to. Things like that. So I think that's all really important to know, that there's so many factors environmentally that can affect that. But so many kids are not getting outside. They're not getting a diverse exposure to bacteria, to soil, to the sunlight. There's so many screens that are involved, and that is just an easy way to kind of get on by every day. So all of that has increased over the years, which has led to sicker kids for sure. And even just the way foods are, parents may have bought like a certain food for so long, but now you go in the store and you just see it contains bioengineered ingredients, right? So we have to understand that we have to adapt to the changes in society. And that's where our culture has not done that. Everybody's just kind of sticking in the same way and thinking that all of us are the wackies that are out there. When really it's like, no, we're adapting to what we have to. Like, that you have to be one with that, and you have to stay on top of it.
Yeah, that's so good. I always say, like, you can't say, well, I grew up eating this and I was fine, because the food version that you grew up eating is literally not the same. Like, or your parents or the grandparents, right? They love to say, well, when I had kids, da da da. It's not the same. It's not the same environment. I know. It's not. We're up against a unique battle, and I love what you said.
Examples of the food that has changed since our parents were
Glyphosate wasn't a thing. Okay. GMOs weren't a thing when our parents were raising kids.
Yeah.
I think they came online in the 90s, if I want to say. Yeah, all kinds of things. Regular, everyday standard care has changed. And so nowadays, I feel like modern parents are we start up against a huge slew of things that go against our biology. And so we have to kind of regulate, okay, how can we get closer to the way nature would have intended this to be? Even little things like what you just said, kids not being outside and being in the dirt. This might be weird, but I almost never have my kids wash their hands before we eat. I don't know if that's bad or not, but my kids are never sick. So they come in from outside and I'm not like, wash your hands. I don't know. I've never done that. And I was around a bunch of other parents. Okay, you don't either. I was around a bunch of other parents and they were like, wash your hands. And I was like, oh, I don't ever say that. Am I weird?
Yeah. I mean, if they're like black, then maybe I will, but we do not.
Right. Or if they were like playing in the toilet, obviously common sense, but like, I don't see outside.
Our kids don't play in the toilet. Just as a quick little update for people out there.
Well, they might have when they were 2. I don't see dirt and outside as like dirty or filthy or dangerous, right? And
It's a
so
huge part of your body. I
it
mean,
is.
the diversity is so important.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's just one example of like little things that I see, like how can we just get back to a little bit more closer to what would have normally we would have been
Yeah.
exposed to, what we would have had to adapt to.
Now, let me give you a
I love that.
scenario. I travel a little bit, actually a lot less lately, but I'll go through the airport and I'll tell you, I am in that airport and there's a big part of me that's like, man, I really want to wash my hands.
Mm.
Would we say that's a different scenario than being outside?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a little different.
I'm like, dude, I walk into those places and I immediately just feel disgusting.
I would say collection of humans in an inside synthetic environment, indoors, artificial lighting, weird like antibacterial sprays on everything that's not creating a balance. Yeah, there's probably some stuff there.
Got it. Okay.
And so, but like being outside, being in nature, being in the creek, being in whatever, feels different for me.
So just to be clear, we're not advocating don't wash your hands. We're saying, hey, if you're outside playing in the yard, you're probably good to go. Yeah.
It's you know what? That's every parent's call. I'm gonna
there's an overdue of some things, I think is the point here.
Yeah. I would kind of love to get into this. I was calling it rapid fire in my head, but you don't have to rapidly answer these questions. But I'd love to pose scenarios where we have seen the traditional route recommend something, and you can kind of broaden your answer and say, this is maybe the other ways that we could look at this situation. Is that cool if we kind of jump into that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wrote them down in Joey's notebook, but I guess I'll read them out for here. I'd love to talk about antibiotics for ear infection. What is the broader story there?
Yeah. So this is also one of those, like, it's not a one size fits all thing. So it could be food sensitivities. It could be an imbalance in the gut, right? That kind of dysfunction that. A lot of kids, we've got lip and tongue ties. It's going to get a little deep here, so bear with me. You got your lip and tongue ties, which are changing your palate formation, right? Which are changing your eustachian tube formation, which is causing everything to be narrow, right? So we have all these mouth breathers now. Right? Wasn't a thing. All these artificial different devices, you got these pacifiers and all this stuff, and not against people that do that, but it all changes the shape of your mouth. So now you have these kids that are developing chronic congestion or chronic coughs due to whatever reason, right? We said the allergies, the gut, mold, toxins, whatever. And the fluid's not able to drain, right? So everything's kind of building up. And as kids, your eustachian tubes kind of stay more flat. And then as you grow and develop, will turn more down. So hence why the little ones tend to get more ear infections than older. But with that, you're just treating, like I would say, it's like having a puddle of water outside on a 98.6 degree day, which is your body temperature. It's going to brew bacteria, right? It's just normal. So if you have chronic fluid sitting in the ears, what's going to happen? You're going to end up with these ear infections. But we know that over 80% of ear infections are viral. Wow. So we're giving antibiotics and people are like, oh, they were better within 48 hours. Well, chances are they would have been better within 48 hours anyway, right? So that doesn't mean that you're not going to develop fevers. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have a child that is ear pain, right? But the answer is not antibiotics. There's a time and a place sometimes. Sometimes we have to go there, but there's a lot of different ways, through homeopathy, garlic oil. And it sounds so silly, but like, we know that garlic is an antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. And that's from like the beginning of time. Talk about grandparents and ancestors. I mean, this goes all the way back, right? We're just bringing it back. So doing garlic oil in the ears, focusing on pain management through heat, through homeopathy, and allowing that to work. But one of the biggest components to chiropractic, we're huge on chiropractic for pediatrics, and not like your Joe Schmo on the corner that charges $10 to snap, crackle, and pop you. You need to have somebody that like is pediatric specific to be able to work on that. And then they're able to maneuver, if it's not the palate, the jaw, the ears, to allow that fluid to drain so that it can hit the checkpoints throughout our lymphatic system and release itself.
See, that's so good. We took our daughter to the chiro for an ear infection. And I asked her, I said, how frustrating is it that most people would just like pop an antibiotic for recurring ear infection? She's like, it stinks because they don't realize there's these little tiny bones that actually can move. And if we can open that up and drain some of that fluid, you won't have a recurring issue. And so it was just one of those things where it's like education literally changes your child's life because they're not on those 4, 5, 6 rounds of antibiotics. Their gut microbiome isn't then impacted for subsequent years to come. And I think that's huge. Okay, I loved that answer. All right, next one, MiraLAX for constipation. What do we do?
Don't do it. Man, this is a big one on our social media when you're scrolling through our stuff. And it's because it's just used so like effortlessly now that it mind boggles us. So first off, it's got a nice, beautiful warning on it for like neurological side effects. Probably something you shouldn't use. But is what happens when you're using MiraLAX is it facilitates the process of pulling all the fluid into the colon to allow these kids to go to the bathroom. But what happens when you stop using it? Not only do you have these side effects, but also the peristalsis, like the natural moving of things through the body, stops because it's been so falsely done for so long that it doesn't even know how to work. So what was the cause of the constipation to begin with? Like that's the part that it drives me crazy. And if we have parents that come in, because like you said, not everybody knows these things from the beginning, right? So like this is not a shaming. It is an education of, hey, know that you have a way to dig deeper into this and finding the right person. But when we get these kids and we're doing the stool testing and we're getting 30 pages of their microbiome to see where the imbalance is, we're able to then fix those gaps or fix those missing pieces of the puzzle. And they have effortless stools and they're regular for the first time in their life. So there's definitely a couple different ways with that, but MiraLAX is definitely not the answer. There's so many different ways. If you have a constipated kiddo, and you need a clean out or whatever, like even just simple magnesium is going to be way better than ever using MiraLAX.
Yeah, that's good.
Neurological association with MiraLAX? Meaning like...
Yeah, a lot of behavioral disturbances.
Like what would be some of those common behavioral disturbances we might see if we were to be regularly using MiraLAX?
Sure. I've seen it across the spectrum a little bit. So a little bit more of just anxiety or depression type symptoms to more like your tantrums and like inability to control emotions. So depending on the age of the child. But there's definitely some warnings on there that should be a big thing. And, you know, it's just, again, it just boggles my mind that even like traditionally, they're okay with prescribing these things when the writing is right there, you know, on the side of the box.
Wow.
Would you say that a lot of children's inability to regulate their emotions on a age appropriate level can be tied to their gut?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think that I think sometimes we put these titles on things like, oh, they're just in their terrible twos, or they're just going through, you know, they're adjusting to their school schedule or whatever. And I've seen this in my kids too. And I think I look at this child and I think, for your age, this emotional regulation doesn't seem to be quite where I think it should be. And I always wonder, is that root cause a gut issue? You know, we can take away screens all we want. We can try to get outside. But at the end of the day, if I'm not looking at their gut microbiome and really digging in deep there, I might be missing a big part of that, because I don't think parents should suffer with like intense behavioral issues for the majority of childhood. That should be small spurts of developmental, you know, working through, or maybe you're going through a difficult season as a family, but to constantly have a dysregulated emotionally child is challenging. I'm speaking like from experience here. So it was just a little thing when you mentioned MiraLAX and neurological symptoms. I thought, how much should we be looking at that when we see our kids and we're thinking, their emotional regulation should be better than that, and it's not quite there. I love that. This is going to be a big one for you. Tylenol or any other fever reducer to reduce even the smallest of fevers. I'd love your input.
That's also a hard pass. So again, this is one of those, like, there is a time and a place, right? So to touch on that, like Tylenol, or the latter. So ibuprofen cannot be given under 6 months of age. Okay. So it's a thing which is involvement of kidneys, and you have to be over 6 months to consume ibuprofen. So if we're dealing with a situation, if it's a bacterial illness, if there's something significant that's going on, you have to do the risk benefit. And under 6 months, if we've tried all the other things, which we have a good bit of tools in our toolbox, as holistic providers. But if we've tried all those things, and we've tried the homeopathics and the essential oils and the apple cider vinegar, socks, and we've done all that, there's a time and a place where we have to say, you know what, we need you to go ahead and give the Tylenol, right? Because that becomes a safety issue for the child. Now, is that something that we push or recommend? No. Conventionally, drives me crazy that that's even being pushed before like routine wellness appointments, because the depletion of glutathione in the liver is just going to definitely broaden that side effect range, which is also causing problems, but that's a whole nother conversation. So Tylenol can definitely be avoided. I mean, we haven't had Tylenol in our home, I think, since my kids were under, 6 months old. But there's so many different ways. And I think that parents just need to dig and figure that out through, again, learning about homeopathics, learning about different herbal treatments, because there's a definite way for that. I say, again, ancestrally, like, they didn't have all these meds just at their fingertips to use. Like, I wish sometimes, like, we all could just reach out to like our great, great, great grandparents and just be like, hey, what did y'all do for X, Y, and Z, right? Like, I wish we had like that book of stuff, because I guarantee you it was like fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's other cultures that work through that stuff. And I love those families that come in and they teach us, all the different remedies to try.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a time and a place for certain situations. But it's definitely shouldn't be the first line if it's not necessary.
For us, something that we have done is, if it is a lower grade fever, I would say even up to 102, and they have been able to sleep, we actually don't touch it. And we
Yeah.
feel like the fever is there for a reason, and it's the body's
Yep.
response. And I think people hear that and they're like, that's kind of wild. They think of it as like a dangerous symptom. Like, we don't want to have brain damage due to overheating. So can you kind of break down what those danger zones are of a higher temperature
Yeah.
and what it looks like to just have a sustained fever? Because if you notice, if you watch your kid go through fever, they have a fever and then it breaks and then it comes back and then it breaks.
Right.
So the body is able to give you some relief, but it's still trying to heal through raising the temperature. So talk to us about why that happens and where it is
Exactly.
sort of hitting that danger zone.
Yeah. So this also depends on age. So anything less than 2 months of a fever is considered significantly abnormal, and you would not want to try to treat that on your own. You would definitely want to notify your provider for that. Over 2 months, and in between like that 2 months and 1 year range are kind of our recommendation for fevers in general. Over the age of 1, if it's less than 103, leave it alone. So that doesn't mean that your child is going to not be comfortable, right? Like, they may be a little restless or, not be able to sleep. And there's a time and a place with that too. Like, if you've tried all the things and the child's not able to rest, or they have a headache, or they're miserable, then we would say intervene and get your child some rest. However, if it's just given, like you said, at like that 99, 100 fever, and your child's either playing or relaxing or sleeping for just that matter, treat the child, not the number. And that's the biggest thing. Like, sure, we can check with the thermometer, right? We can see that it's elevated, but if they're fine, let them fight it. When we deplete the fever by giving medication, it brings that fever to a normal state. And my biggest analogy with that is that, all these, I would say, picture like a big castle with a bunch of soldiers, and like they all are fully working to try to defend the army, when that fever is high. And they're all fighting and they're trying to keep everything going. And then when we give Tylenol or ibuprofen, they all go to sleep. And now all the defenders are able to go right on by into the castle, right? So I say it serves a really good purpose, and it's supposed to kill all the bad that's there by allowing our white cells and our body to actually fight and encapsulate those bad germs. But we're so quick to just bring the fever down. And sometimes we'll have people come in, they're like, well, I've been given medication like every 4 hours and we're on like day 4 or 5 of this illness. And it's like, well, why don't we actually stop trying to medicate the fever and then it will actually go down? And they're like, I don't get it. It's like, well, we were not allowing the body to fight it. Like we were just falsifying that. So that's not always the case, right? Like you're not going to always have that exact situation, but there's definitely ways that we can intervene. That's why supporting the immune system when it's sick through the fever of doing, vitamin C, zinc is a really big missing mineral that we see on labs. So zinc, vitamin D, super deficient. So if you're focusing on the big things that are going to help support our immune system, then it's going to allow the body to fight it better, where the fever is not going to be the driver in that.
That's really good. I've noticed from our experience, you're totally right that when you let the fever do its thing, the sickness resolves so much faster. And I
Yep.
remember I even heard a really well-known pediatrician, and I can't remember his name, Dr. Peter something maybe. He was talking and said that if you don't intervene through a like sickness cycle where a fever is involved, he said 9 times out of 10 in his pediatric practice, he has seen developmental growth happen right after a sickness has been resolved where you haven't touched the fever. And I've actually started to notice that in my kids too. Like one time we had our daughter had a fever for a couple days and then she worked through it. And then like she had like 5 more new words. Do you remember that? And it was like, oh, like her body is just like picking right back up where it was. And even more some. It felt like she had like a bit of a leap. I don't know if there's any science behind that, but when he explained that and I saw that in my own kids, I thought, isn't that fascinating that as parents, we're so used to just grabbing the bottle of Motrin or ibuprofen because we want our kids to be comfortable. But there is some benefit to kind of letting nature do its thing. So I really love your description there. Do you have a question?
Yeah. So 103, what are the possible negatives that can occur if we're going beyond 103?
So it's just a matter of like what the body's fighting, right? So if it's going to continue to creep up, that's the part that we don't know. Like it may sit at 103.4 and not do anything, right? But it may be continuing through that. And when we have fevers that are super high or that are coming on super fast, you do worry about febrile seizures, which are more of just a side effect of the fever that really shouldn't cause any long-term damage, but obviously can within realm of how long that's happening. And then it's also more of a sign of like maybe something significantly bacterial is going on. And that's our biggest thing is, okay, do we have a bacterial infection that's maybe a little bit more than what we thought this viral infection was? So it kind of takes us to a different level of needing to look at that and see what's happening. But then obviously like you get really high fevers, you're getting into, I'm talking 105, 106, right? Like we have some detrimental, you can have some brain damage, some organ damage, et cetera. But through that, it's just more for us. It's on our radar of something else is going on. We started off lower, or maybe the child's just dehydrated. We will see that a lot too, where the fever's just not letting go and it's a little bit higher, but it contraindicates exactly what's happening because you're like, well, you're sweating everything out or your body's fighting that, but then your fever will actually go up if you're dehydrated. So sometimes these kids need fluids, or we need to find a different way to get fluids into them to also bring that fever down. So for us, that's just like a dissection of the tool.
That's good. It's an indicator of like this has elevated to the next level. We might not want to just give it time if it's something seriously bacterial. You want to be on top of that.
Well, I think parents, like nobody likes to see their kid laying on the couch completely lethargic. So parents kind of panic and they can do that at like 101, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it's like us, like we work to empower parents that like, hey, your fever's good. Like we're like having these conversations, right? So that's what we try to push more because it's still not fun. Like I hate when my kids get fevers. It's like, and then I get out all my stuff and here we go. And like, away we go. Right. But, it's just one of those things. No one likes to watch that process.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable to see your kids be uncomfortable.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Next one. This is kind of veering slightly, but starting cereal for babies around 4 to 6 months. When pediatricians recommend cereal as the first food, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, this is one of our viral posts that have been going the last few weeks. Absolutely not. You have a lot of absolutely not questions. So we don't recommend actually any grains before 1. believe it or not. And so the science behind that is that these babies don't start to develop their digestive enzymes to help break down foods until about 6 months, which is when we're starting to gently introduce solids. And then they're not fully developed until their 1 year molars come in. So with that being said, when you have grains that are super, super hard to break down and you have enzymes that are not there, these kids do tend to have worsening allergy symptoms. Anything before 6 months, you're definitely looking at some significant issues later on. If it's not eczema or autoimmunity, allergies, asthma, any of those inflammatory responses, because that gut is born leaky, but intelligent by design, right? And it's meant to kind of just build that immune system. So then when we are introducing grains, it definitely hinders that microbiome and it hinders that immune system. So for us, we focus on baby led weaning, which is more of just straight foods from the source, from the beginning, organic as much as possible. Same with meats, just grass-fed, organic, no antibiotics, like non-GMO. And then we say like bone broth, egg yolk. You know, if you want to do liver, go for it. Just focusing on like avocados, higher fatty foods, and really just developing the diversity in the gut. And that's where a lot of parents, like you see these kids that eat like the same 3 foods, there's no diversity. So there's no good microbiome, which then is escalating to all these other issues and challenges as well. But if you can develop that palate from early on, these babies aren't going to have any struggles. Like you don't go through your random, toddler phases of I don't want that or this or that. That's normal. We go through that too, if you really think about it. But when you teach them the benefits of why these things are important for their body, then it's education from the beginning. And I always tell parents, like purees, don't give them that texture and that diversity on their palate. So everything is the same texture. So broccoli is the example I use for that. Is that your baby may be like, oh, they loved broccoli. Oh my gosh, they loved broccoli for the first whatever months of their life. And then now they hate it. Well, did you actually do purees first? Because if you did, that's a great example of a very smooth texture to now a very not smooth, slimy, goofy, tree type texture, right? So getting that texture from the beginning is so important to lessen the pickiness and make that palate just as diverse as possible.
I love everything you just said. How much of the puree, baby food, puffs, cereal is driven by the manufacturers and the baby marketing industry, right? Versus what's actually biologically recommended.
Yeah, no, I think it's huge. And I think honestly, like our society's, it's busy. It's busy and people want convenience and they want quick and they want easy. And people say like, oh, I don't have time to make food. I don't have time for this. Well, you don't have to make anything. Just give them what you're eating. But then you get into, well, people usually aren't eating well. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. Yeah. And I think that parents that don't eat well, they still want their babies to eat well in the beginning. So they're really about, excuse me, they're really about like the pouches and like the healthier type of jars of food, making sure they have vegetables and whatnot. But in the end, just go to the food, skip the money, skip all the hard stuff, just give them the straight stuff from the beginning and these babies will thrive.
Yeah, I always say you can just skip that entire baby aisle completely. Like with our third, we didn't use an ounce of anything. We started with egg yolk that was like softly boiled, and we mixed it with some butter. And then she had some liver and she had some banana. That was like the only starchy thing she had in the beginning. And avocado. And man, she thrives to this day. She's almost 4. She has yet to hit that really picky eating thing. And she's had a little bit here and there, but I feel like her palate is so well developed compared to our other children who we maybe didn't start off the same way. So parents, we are
the
with
same with mine, with my first to my second.
Yeah. It's really cool when you can see that transformation and the power.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, of starting them off on the right foot. And I think there's, again, if parents are educated in the beginning, they can avoid so much pain of allergies or picky eating or any of this if they can get the right education up front, which is, again, so important. Okay, medication for ADHD. What else can we do aside from medication alone?
I feel like we're on like Pete and repeat here. The gut is huge. So we definitely look through that. So when we have those conditions that come into the office, excuse me, we are looking at blood and stool and sometimes neurotransmitters. Like the options kind of just go on depending on what we're dealing with. But we know that like the GABA, the serotonin, like the neurotransmitters are in the gut. So we focus on that. We see what's going on. Have they had a lot of antibiotics, medications? Is their diet junk? Where are we at with some of that? Because a lot of these kids are just reactive to chemicals and dyes and all that stuff too. So we take a fine tooth comb and we kind of just narrow all that down. And then through that, we're able to see, well, maybe have they had like a virus or a bacteria exposure? Is there a strep in their blood? Is there a mycoplasma in their blood? Is there something they were exposed to at some point they weren't able to clear? So then we focus on that. So it all just kind of depends on what we're dealing with. But in the end of the day, there is a root cause. And medications is just masking the problem, which then either, causes poor weight gain, it diminishes their appetite. They have to take it religiously, sometimes twice a day, sometimes more. And they're kind of like disconnected from who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sad to see these kids that are medicated. Some parents feel like that's their only option, and that's definitely your choice. There's no shame, there's no judgment on that, but there's definitely ways that we can look through that stuff to dig deeper.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how many people are told there's a root cause. I think a lot of people are told this is your lot in life. They have ADHD, they have ADD, they have, XYZ neurological disorder. And again, it gets back to that. Let's see here. Like what other contributing factor? And I think something that you've kind of showed us through this conversation is that there could be so many different contributing factors that appear and manifest themselves in different ways in different kids. So it's not like this, 2 + 2 = 4 easy, simple equation. It can take some digging to get to the root cause. Final one, lotion for eczema. What are your thoughts?
Eczema is not a lotion deficiency.
I love that. So what other toolbox or tools can we put in the toolbox?
Oh goodness. I mean, from herbal salves to just topical coconut oil. We use a product called Golden Salve a lot, which is an herbal emollient, if you will, but also avoiding petroleum, which I think a lot of people are huge into, like Aquaphor and Vaseline, which is then just going to exacerbate that skin too. Goat's milk lotions, tallow, even just beef tallow, get the nutrients back on the skin. That's a big thing. But I will say your eczema is not a topical issue either. So you have to figure out like where that came from, right? So deep within the gut, food sensitivities, molds, toxins, exposure, etc. So after we identify that, like the topical stuff is just getting us through to prevent infection, allow the child to be comfortable as we're healing through that process.
Love that. Something you've mentioned a few times is homeopathy, homeopathics. I was like, which one am I talking about? Can you describe how homeopathy works in the body?
Yeah, so homeopathics work of the like cures the like. So you're actually giving a little bit of whatever that remedy is to counter what the body's dealing with. So it's interesting, and it a little bit goes a long way. And I will say, like, not everything works for everybody, depending on what you're dealing with, but there's definitely a good way for that. Like, for instance, like Nux vomica is one of our favorites for like any vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, that type of stuff. And it works incredible. So like knowing that there's different remedies that you can just give a couple pellets, they're like these little white little balls, but taking those pellets in orally can be given at very little ages as well, because they can be dissolved as well. But being able to do that and like not have to go to medication is huge. But it's just giving, like I said, a little bit of that remedy counter exactly what's happening in the body.
Mm-hmm. When you are telling parents that this is a tool that they can use, what are some of the other kind of favorites in your toolbox? Something that I know that we've carried in our house is arnica for like pain relief.
Mm-hmm.
What others can you kind of name drop to give parents an idea of what they can be looking for?
Yeah, so arnica, belladonna, and ferrum phos are our top 3 for fevers. Nux vomica is always great for any sort of GI anything. Not homeopathic, but then adding activated charcoal along with that GI remedy is definitely huge. But then we always like to have Ledum on hand. So Ledum's great for tick bites or any sort of bug bites. Rhus tox is good for any sort of like blistery hand, foot, and mouth, and or like rash, like itchy rash. So that's great to have as well. And then like little ones, you know, depending, like the camellia is great for teething, or like a chamomile is awesome for that. And they actually have, like Bourwan actually has like these little liquid vials that are for teething that you just kind of like put into the baby's mouth, and it definitely helps to calm a lot of that stuff too. But there's so many different remedies. I have like an entire like box of stuff that we use, with like a book of whatever. But always great to have those things on hand. I mean, and as you get into like your colds, pulsatilla is always great for like nasal discharge, thick, you know, yellow, copious, great for like ear infections. Same with like Cali Myrrh, and the Cali Bronx, all great for like just respiratory stuff too. So a lot of different ones, but I always say like they sell like the kits where you can buy like the family starter pack that comes with like all your top ones. I think even Amazon has it. Great place to start, homeopathic book, and you can definitely start to dive into some of that stuff.
That's really helpful. I love that. You've been so quiet. I'm like, want to give you the floor.
I have, some, I guess, pop questions that might not be answered super well because it's just on my brain. And I know a lot of people, a lot of parents, young parents today that they're trying to do the best they can. And so totally like, no, again, really, really no shame here. So if you hear me say this, I just really want people not to be like frustrated. But I hear a lot of people today say, my kid is allergic to dairy, and they could be 6 or 7 months old, and my wife had to go back to work or something like this. And so we couldn't breastfeed. So we had to pick up this unbelievably expensive, like, hypoallergenic formula. And then their baby is having tons of like spitting up, and it's just like it's like this ongoing thing of trying to figure out the balance of what can my kid eat and not eat at such a young age. And I'd just be curious if you see this often, and if there's things that these parents should be considering in that kind of stage of life.
Yeah, I would say that we're seeing it more and more, which is definitely concerning. But then it's going back to like mom's microbiome, like not to like point the blame, but like there's a huge part of that. And I think like all the medications that are giving sometimes during pregnancy or even delivery with like antibiotics definitely is disrupting the little one's gut from the beginning, unfortunately. So then with that, they're, if they're, because for us, like our parents are really trying their hardest to breastfeed. So they'll pull everything out of their diet. They'll look for donor milk that'll be dairy free. But yeah, I mean, it can cause, if your child's body doesn't like it, it's going to cause an inflammatory response. So we do need to remove it until we can kind of fix the problem, right? And when they're super little, you kind of you can't be too aggressive with all the herbs and the supplements and all that stuff. So a lot of it's just like avoiding until we can kind of get through that safe zone of figuring that out. But if the microbiome's disrupted, it's going to start to be something else. So it's going to start with dairy. That's going to be egg. And it's going to be gluten. That's going to be nut. And it's just going to cascade, right? So, with a lot of that, I mean, there are good better alternative formulas out there. Usually not our country. So, you're looking at like the holly and the hip, the goat's milk formula, from Germany is more clean. And kids tend to do okay with that if they're not dealing with a goat, milk allergy as well. But there's just all these different steps. And I think that, parents need to know that, there's no, like you said, there's no shame in the game. We're not here to shame you and judge you, but know that like we can work through some of this stuff. Like, what is your goal? Like when parents come in and they're dealing with these challenges, like what is your goal? Is your goal to breastfeed? Or are you like just done and you just like need to focus on like growing your child? Because then that kind of guides me as to like how far I'm going to push. Like, I'm not just going to say like, you need to cut this out. You need to do this. Like, I'm not living that life. Right. And not everybody can handle that. But if you can, then there's way better benefit of still breastfeeding and cutting those things out than there is to go to a synthetic, no matter how natural the formula is.
I've heard from parents that they're told that their little baby is lactose intolerant. And then I say, but there's lactose in breast milk. Like, so why,
There's also lactose in the goat's milk formula. So,
yeah. But like, I'm like, we're mammals. These babies are meant, like, milk is their first food. What do you mean they're lactose intolerant? Like, breast milk has lactose in it. I'm pretty sure more than cow's milk does.
But is it because they're gassy and they're spitting up? And is it because their neurological system is imbalanced and they need to be adjusted? Is it because they have a lip tie or a tongue tie and their palate is disrupted? ... Like, there's more to that. But that doesn't mean that your child's not going to be bloated, gassy, uncomfortable. But is it the lactose or is it the structure?
Yeah.
How accepted are lip and tongue tie revisions today?
I think they're way more accepted than what they used to be. With my oldest, she just turned 10. And she had a lip tie that was brutal, but I had no idea. And she was barely gaining weight and we were breastfed and I was not giving up. Like, I refused to buy an ounce of formula for this house. I'm like, I will suffer till the day I die. Like, this is apparently what it's like to have a child and like give everything to them. But like, it was so uncomfortable. It was so painful. And like I said, she was barely gaining weight, but the pediatrician didn't push anything on us. And then I found a lactation consultant that was like, she's got this lip tie. I'm like, well, what is that? Learned about that. We got that fixed. And within, instant latch, she was completely different. Do I feel that some people overcorrect? Yeah, I do. I feel that, there needs to be sometimes some craniosacral work and some stretching and some palate work before we're just fixing a lip and a tongue tie? I do. Because you can't always just fix a lip and a tongue tie and think that child's going to go back. I mean, sometimes these kids are nursing fine, but maybe they're gaining a little bit slowly or they're gassy or they're spitting up. And then we do a lip and a tongue tie revision. Now they don't want to latch. They're miserable. They went on strike. They're done. So you can make matters worse without kind of figuring out where that problem lies. So we work a lot through like craniosacral therapy. Unless there's like a significant tie, then it's like, okay, hey. But we use trusted providers by us. I would not recommend like just cutting with like from an ENT. Not my ball game. We recommend laser with stretching. So stretching and craniosacral therapy following for 6 weeks.
Yeah. Again, I feel like a record. I feel like my life is an example of everything you're talking about, because with my first two, I had no idea. And then my third, we did the craniosacral work. We did the tongue tie that she actually had 2 cheek buckles and a lip revision with laser, right? And we did the follow-up stretching and we did because nursing was so incredibly painful from like day 2. I was like bleeding. It was miserable.
Terrible. I know.
I sympathize so much with these women. And luckily, like, I had a home birth. And so I was connected. I had a lactation consultant who was like, hey, go see this other person. She works wonders, craniosacral therapy. Go see this specific dentist who's skilled with the laser to do these revisions and then do these follow-up stretches. And it was a game changer. Like, even the body work alone pre-operation was a game changer. And so I was told like, hey, this body work is really effective, but unless you release the tie, it won't stay. So we had kind of this multifaceted approach. And then I saw my baby thrive. And I was like, how many parents could use this information? And so I think so often we're quick to be like, oh, that's a dairy intolerance, that they're really gassy, they're uncomfortable, that's an XYZ food intolerance, when really it could be something like you're saying, structural. And parents just aren't aware. So I think that's really enlightening to hear you kind of explain your own experience.
Well, what's so hard through, like, again, just the society that we live in is most of these things are not insurance covered.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these parents just don't have the resources and it's sad. And, it's like, they want these things, but not always can they do it. And that's just the hardest part. Functional medicine and testing, like, we don't mark up our tests because I want parents to be able to afford it. And it's still super expensive. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge for people. And I definitely, like you said, I definitely sympathize with them when it comes to some of that stuff and, them trying their best to get through some of these challenges.
And a lot of the communities, father-based communities that I'm in, if I were to bring up the term lip and tongue tie, I mean, I would see people looking at me like I'm,
crazy,
speaking another language, because it is so, it almost is so, it feels like oftentimes for me, something that is so foreign. Like, what do you mean you like cut your baby's lip when they weren't eating? Like, are you insane? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, we went to this place that, this is what they specialize in. They had like a laser, and it like cauterizes as it kind of like, revises. And we did these, exercises to kind of get them back into order. And they're like,
It sounds so fringe.
they're like, dude, my pediatrician just told me that like I need to buy this now. We're good. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't do it that way, and we seem pretty happy, and you guys, you're telling me you're having a lot of like issues with like you have a colicky baby, and that's just like the hand you were dealt. And I'm like, I oftentimes think that it's so common because we're in this world of respect the experts, which I think that there's so much out there where it's so easy to hear somebody tell you something, and man, if you don't know, you don't know. And so,
Yeah.
how would you encourage people to? There are so many tools at our disposal when it comes to helping support our children from a root cause, like preventing issues, like preventative care, but then also identifying challenges or symptoms they're currently having, understanding like what is the actual problem, like what might be the root cause of that symptom. And oftentimes parents go to is to walk into a pediatrician. So other than walking to a pediatrician, what are some ways parents out there can get information that allows them to feel more equipped to deal with problems and challenges that they have? Like, is there educational resources they should be reading, books?
There is and there isn't, right? Because everybody's got everything that's written these days. A lot of it's just opinion. And that's like really hard. Our parents will come to us and ask like, oh, hey, I saw that somebody posted about whatever. And it's like, well, they're kind of there, but kind of not. I find the like-minded communities to be very helpful for parents. And then also following like just pages like our own where we're just providing like the non-biased information that's out there that ones that we didn't know. But there's different books out there, whether it be on baby-led weaning, nourishing the natural child, kind of focusing on first food, stuff like that. But it kind of just gives you a guide, and the rest of it, you have to find somebody in your circle. So whether that be your homeschooling community or, like I said, natural providers like us, I mean, I know that we're few and far in between. So it's hard. It's hard to find those resources. And even some of the groups online, like the advice is god awful. And I always like cringe, but it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Because you can't be everywhere at the same time and expect to educate these people. So I always tell parents, like, if it seems wrong or you're unsure, keep digging for whatever way that looks. If it's not through, social media and finding like-minded pages like our own, or through you guys or podcasts, like that stuff's huge. Find those reputable people, and then you will learn from them. Most pediatric trained chiropractors are educated in some of that. So sometimes I'll be like, hey, dude, you have a provider out in Oklahoma? It's like, no, I don't, but find a chiro and then see who they recommend, right? Like, because they're likely going to be on your page. So there's some resources like that, but I wish there was just like a community of resources. But yeah, this world's too controlling, I believe, to allow that to happen. So
what would the response be to the reason I asked that initial question was kind of leading up to this one. Oftentimes, if I'm in, again, these fatherly communities of people that are asking me questions around how we take care of our kids, and I'm suggesting all these things that seem very foreign, and sometimes they will look at me and be like, man, I'm just trusting the science. Any response?
What's your question there?
So I'm just curious how Jessica might respond to someone that would say, we're just trusting the science.
I would probably say you do you.
It is hard when you have, like, when that is the response, it's almost combative. Like, it's almost saying, we're trusting the science, but like, we're smarter than you because we have this thing called science that we believe in. And it's like, that statement alone kind of shuts down the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm not here to sway anybody. Like, if they're coming to me, I'm here to educate them. Like, they found us, they know what they want, or they want to learn more. but I am not here to change their mind.
Mm.
So like if they're going to say they trust whatever, hey, go for it. I usually say I was there once, and everybody has a place and a spot in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't always believe what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get there. You'll find where you belong and what that looks like.
How do we define, the way that I always kind of approach that myself is I'll say, how do you define science? Because I'm not necessarily under the belief that science has to be synthetic. I mean, if anything, I'd say science starts naturally, and synthetic approaches. You see what I'm saying? And so we had a guest on recently. We're talking to, and he went through nutrition like courses in college, and he was saying that he also took some classes of like anatomy and biology and biochemistry, and that the nutritional courses were not lining up with some of the biochemistry and biology courses. And he was like, so here I am taking two different sciences and they're not talking to each other. And that, some of the ways I learned about how to, treat the body in, my anatomy class or my biology class or my biochemistry class were completely like just the opposite was taught in my nutrition courses. And I think that oftentimes when we say things like, I just want to trust the science, man, it's like you've just chosen some science.
Right.
You've chosen some of the picture, maybe not all of the picture. But
that's what's published.
Yeah.
That's what you find on Google. That's what you find when you look things up. So like, how do you blame them? Like you got to switch your search engine to find the right information. Like that's the tough stuff.
That's a great point. These bigger, higher funded organizations that can publish things differently are going to get to the top of the stack. 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. That was all I had, Jessica. This is awesome. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I feel personally, I just sat through an incredible course on pediatric care. And Elizabeth, did you have anything else?
No, I wish you were in Cincinnati. Honestly, I'm just sad that you're not local. You've been so great. Thank you for putting up with my rapid fire. But I just think when you hear a perspective of you are an expert, and I do think we need to listen to experts. We need to have people in our lives who are teaching us and educating us. And you just have such a different approach than what I personally have experienced at a traditional pediatrician. And it's just really hope giving to hear your side and your perspective and your true, I can tell you really want to help families. You really want to see children thrive. I think that comes through.
They deserve it.
They do. They really do. So Jessica, please let us know where people can find you and the practice and how they can connect.
Yeah, so our website is wellrootedpediatrics.com, and then we're also Wellrooted Pediatrics on Instagram and on TikTok.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys have a wonderful account, very educational. So I'm going to tell everyone again to go follow you. This has been so great. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too.
And with that, Jessica has left the virtual chat.
What a wonderful episode. I love this rapid fire sort of framework of the show that we just applied, because it allows us to cover a lot of topics kind of all in one fell swoop. And I just felt like her response to each and every, which by the way, these are things that I've literally been told by a pediatrician. Oh, you're struggling with constipation? Here's some MiraLAX.
The MiraLAX thing was kind of intense. I didn't realize it could have the impact that it does.
It's crazy. And then, even the complexity of a simple ear infection. What'd she say? 80% of ear infections are viral. So giving an antibiotic literally does nothing.
It's crazy.
And then your one round of antibiotics, your gut microbiome is impacted for 2 years. It's just wild.
I love that she broke down sort of like the detriments of antibiotics. We also know that they're great and they can be used as a tool when we need them.
I'm not scared of an antibiotic at all
I had never heard it broken down like that of what can actually happen to you.
Yes.
I know that there's like a lot of like fuss and hubbub of like, oh, don't take these, they're bad for you. And I'm like, I don't know what's really going on here. So I love that.
Yeah. And I also like that she has a secondary component to that treatment plan that says, hey, since you had to take this gut limiting medication let's build back your microbiome so that hopefully in the future you don't struggle with this again.
That's so good.
And that's why I say I'm not scared of an antibiotic. I'm going to know when to use it and when to not use it. And I'm going to use my best judgment there. It's not the first thing I reach for, but I am not an anti-medication person. Trust me, I've watched very close members of my family go through intense medical treatment that I am thankful for. But I always think there's another side to that story. I think that there's a way to support your immune system in a different way. And those are the conversations pediatricians are not having with their patients. And thank goodness Jessica is. So what a great episode.
Speaking of putting good things into our body.
Yes, sir.
Because we were just speaking about that, right?
Yeah.
Coffee. What kind of coffee are you into these days?
I'm really digging our Ethiopia. I just said that. Okay, so
I knew that, by the way. That was such a tee up. Like, I'll ask, hey, what kind of coffee? Ethiopia. I'm like, oh, well, what about like? No. I'm like, okay.
For me?
Yeah.
Well, we only have like one bag open at a time. I'm actually really digging the decaf, of which I wish you would make that more often because I don't always want the caffeine, but you push back on that. Anyways, what I was going to say is I recently did this post on Instagram, which I'm kind of in love with. I want to do like a whole series on because it's all about not making partial truths your main health philosophy. And one of the bullet points on there was like, coffee is bad for you. And, part of that truth is, industrial coffee stinks. There could be mycotoxins and pesticides, herbicides. It's over roasted. It tastes awful. It's not fresh. Could grow mold, yada, 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 yada. But there's this thing called specialty coffee. And there's this concept of roasting to order. And there's this, beautiful method of brewing coffee without plastic called pour over. And there's just ways that you can up your coffee game so that you're not dealing with microplastics in your coffee from either your coffee cup or your coffee machine. You're not dealing with mold because you know how the coffee was properly dried and fermented from the farmer. You're not dealing with stale coffee that the oils are all rancid because it's roasted fresh and sent to your door. So the partial truth of coffee can be bad. Yeah, but like our coffee is not. So that whole rant is like one of the reasons I love how we source our coffee at Hazelmeyer Goods, because I love kind of busting these myths. And it gave me so much like, oh yeah, I can drink amazing coffee.
What we set out to do was not only to source coffee that was good for the farmers, meaning like we pay them what they need to actually sustain themselves and live a good life, right? Because there's so much of that that's not happening.
That's why it's not $6 a bag.
But we also wanted to have just the absolute best coffee. So this is not like, the guano, like bat poop coffee that's $1 billion. That's a thing. Totally saw it once. I was like, whoa. But like, this is the premium coffee beans themselves. And you will taste it and you will notice it. You will open the bag when it shows up at your door and you will open it up and you'll be like, oh my gosh, the smell of it is unreal. It's just ridiculous. Not to mention fresh roasted is just a completely different experience. You can get it ground or whole bean. Go on to shopth.com, get yourself some coffee. Not to mention our tea.
Certified organic, certified fair trade, third-party tested for heavy metal contamination and other things. It is so legit. We only have, I think, 3 teas on there right now. I think we're adding another tea.
We got chai, we have Earl Grey, we've got the cranberry orange, and we've got the Assam.
Yes.
So 4
teas right now. We're looking to add another.
What tea are you looking to add?
I thought we were going to do a matcha.
Is that tea?
Ceremonial grade matcha.
We are looking to do that.
Yeah, it's tea.
Blowing the secret
it's
over
not
here.
Out yet.
If you heard this, you now know that might be coming.
We're working on it. Anyways, tea is phenomenal. I love tea. We're a split household. I'd say we do 50% coffee, 50% tea. 70-30.
You do more tea when I'm not here.
I grew up drinking tea.
You did.
If you read What's for Breakfast, if you guys have What's for Breakfast, I have a whole page dedicated to tea, and I dedicated the whole book to my mother and her tea table. That has a special place in my heart. Anyways.
We're drinking coffee. We're drinking tea. We love it. And it is like our special moment that we get to share together. So coffee for me is way more than the caffeine hitter that I get from it.
Yeah.
It's coffee time with you and I, which is
why. You want to say something nice about me?
I was going to until you interrupted me, and now here we are.
Sorry.
Coffee times. One of my favorite marital moments is sitting downstairs on the couch in the morning when it's quiet. Our kids are not downstairs yet. Thank God we were blessed with kids that sleep past 7. And we get to have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't talk for 10 minutes. And as we kind of sink into the couch and that warm cup of coffee, kind of just the conversation starts. There's no like talking points of like, well, here's some problems I have with you. And it's just more or less like, yeah, you know that thing we were talking about the other day? Isn't that crazy? Oh, yeah. It's great. It's like we're friends.
It's like we're friends.
It's great. I love it. Big fan. Get yourself some coffee. Improve your marriage. You heard it here first. Get some coffee. Improve your marriage.
I'm not sure
Shopth.com.
Guarantee that.
Well, improving your marriage was separate from the coffee. It's not like the coffee itself. It's like you go improve your marriage and also buy some coffee.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see what you did.
That's what was said there. Yeah. We've got all kinds of stuff on shopth.com, friends. We've got lard dish soap free of synthetic inputs to wash your dishes. That's right. We use bar soap and horsehair maple wood brushes to wash our dishes. That's all on shopth.com for you. Go get it. It's awesome. It's going to change your life. I'm so sold out for lard dish soap. It's crazy.
I'm never going back.
It's awesome. We've got sourdough tools on there. We have the best proofing baskets in the world. I think that's safe to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best I've ever seen, unless someone copies what we make, and therefore they've got equal.
Yeah, these are USA made. These are made with cotton. These are foldable. They're washable if you need to. They create just the most beautiful loaves. Not that your proofing basket necessarily leads to the ultimate success, but everything that a rattan proofing basket does, these do and more and better.
I mean, and
they're cute.
There's awesome things about the baskets I'm even learning just day in and day out. Like I was putting it away. They were on the out because you just baked bread.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, this goes into the drawer because it can fold down.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to have like a place in a cabinet or something because they're fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could store them with your oven mitts or you could store them in the towel drawer. You could store them in the, everyone's got a junk drawer. Like wherever you need to put them, they're good to go.
Yeah.
Love those. Shopth.com. Go on there for all kinds of home good stuff. I mean, I'm looking at one of our Hazelmeyer Goods mugs on the table down here in our studio. Those
Shout out
awesome.
to Carrie who handmade all of those.
Just savage.
Sipped Ceramics. We love her.
Love her so much.
And that's the thing I love about the shop too is like we can we're friends with all these people. Like we're friends with our coffee roaster. We're friends with our basket maker. We're friends with our mug maker. Like this collection, this community of artisans and makers and even small companies who are making amazing stuff like our horsehair brushes. It's so fun to be able to give them a platform and be able to share their product with the world.
100%.
And we're just kind of along for the ride. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, what else you got?
You can find us on Instagram if you wanted to. Homegrown_education. Liz Hazelmeyer, Joey Hazelmeyer, we're on there. We're sharing things. We work out, we run, we eat great food.
True fact.
Get a little behind the scenes of these maniacs.
I don't feel like we leave much to the imagination.
We've got education resources on homegrowneducation.org. We've got books for your kids to get them into the real food game, to kind of break some generational struggles in food. Teach them how to make decisions about their food early. Let this being healthy and this preventative care thing be something that you give them now. There's never a better time to start your kids on a journey of understanding how to nourish their bodies. Okay.
Take it.
Homegrowneducation.org. Get yourself some of those books. We've got curriculum for kids and we've got books for you, meal plans, all kinds of awesome stuff to make your real food journey more potent. Friends, leave us a review if you love this podcast. We love to read those because it's inspiring for us, but it also helps put it in front of other people's eyes to kind of get this message out there. And we're crushing it. Like we're big time crushing it.
What? I wouldn't say we're crushing it.
I mean, we're regularly in the top 10 in nutrition for.
I think that is so amazing because we are telling a countercultural story. And that's what gets fired me. I don't think Joey means like, oh, Liz and Joey are amazing. It's amazing that we get to facilitate these conversations with guests or have conversations about kind of fringe ideas, right? Like raw milk when it's just me and Joe. And that episode can get pushed out to the explore page and with so many eyes on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can start to make decisions for their family and think,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I have this information now. This changes stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gets me so fired up. That's why the podcast is probably my number one favorite thing we do.
It's a movement, and y'all that are listening are part of it. So keep it rolling. Keep
You are
it
the
going.
movement.
Get on there. Make it happen. Put a positive review up, and let's get this in front of as many people as we possibly can. And let's just keep this thing rolling.
Yep, we're never stopping.
And that's a wrap for today. And until next time, friends.